It's a little bit of a different take on the vampire movie. So it doesn't reinvent the wheel or anything, like, but the characters feel very authentic, and it has like that sort of Shaun of the Dead comedy feel, but toned down, like more realistic version of it. So not like over the top, but the characters feel a little bit familiar to that. Like these guys that are like attached to their hometowns, they don't want to leave. There's local lore attached to the hometowns. It's basically about this local folklore. There's this big collection of stones in this guy's backyard. There's this all this folklore about this creature that lives underneath there. Supposedly this creature was like the inspiration for Dracula. So Bram Stoker came there, found out about this creature, and then wrote about Dracula, and it was inspired by. So this is like the original Dracula, basically. But people get turned into vampires by the stones. So like all the stones are there, they get cut by the stones. That's what turns them into a vampire. So a little bit of a different take, doesn't reinvent the wheel, but definitely worth watching. Got a very cool like personality to it and feel to it. So basically like a less funny version of Shaun of the Dead is what it reminded me of, but with vampires instead of zombies.
Yeah, I mean, vampires are something that needs a reinvention in my mind, because like you think about like you like our vintage, like for us, Lost Boys was probably one of the biggest kind of like
that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, and it switched our look on vampires, right? Like all of a sudden it became like, oh shit, vampires can be cool, right? Like, and it took that turn, and then probably, you know, God, I can't even remember the.
Well, we got the Fright Night 2, which is another one of my favorites.
Fright Night 2, which was good, but then all of a sudden the Twilight stuff messed up. Messed up vampires again, and there was also like
the vampires back decades.
And then Bram Stoker's Dracula and was
the Coppola version, the
Coppola version, and then the Tom Cruise. What was the Tom Cruise Brad Pitt one? Which
Interview with the Vampire. That's Interview with the Vampire. That first one is actually pretty good. That's a pretty good adaptation of the book.
Yeah. So I mean, so vampires have had this kind of like there was something weird about them when they went kind of sexy. Right, like
that was the Anne Rice resurgence, and then also that spiraled off onto the Twilight was sort of playing off of that, but doing like a more PG-13 version of it.
Yeah. So Twilight did that. I mean, I kind of like obviously like you and I are gonna like the Lost Boys version where they're kind of like grungy, but cool, but whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a whole like
vampires, hipster vampires.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole idea of vampires, there's a cool sort of zombie take on them left to be done, where they're kind of like maybe they're not that cool. They're just a bunch of like blood-sucking freaks that you can communicate with, and there's another angle still left. And I feel like vampires is something that has like another stage to come. I think there's cool stuff that can be done with vampires still.
Yeah, absolutely.